Hello and welcome back. Today it's time for another Sunny Patches block tutorial, and we are going to be making a Sunny Sawtooth Star Block. So head over to my blog, corianderquilts.com, print off your pattern and meet me back here and we will sew one up together. One quick note before we start piecing this block. We have one more block to go next month in October, and I am also going to be sharing the finishing pattern at that point in time. So we are very close to completing these blocks. Now, if you have not made all of your blocks, you still have time to catch up. If you're new to the sew along, you can catch up at any time. You're going to find all of the links that you need to find the patterns in the description box below this video. So you'll be all set to join in whenever you want to. Now let's just go ahead and dive into today's block. I've printed out my pattern and I have cut all of the pieces that I need according to what is listed here on the pattern. The block that I shared at the beginning of this video was made using Beautiful Day fabrics, and we are going to be using all of these beautiful Sunwashed fabrics to make the block just like you see it in the pattern. We're going to start by piecing this center portion of our block. Now, just as in previous months, if you prefer to simplify the block, you certainly can. You would be using a 5-inch square solid piece of fabric in place of the pieced center if you wanted to simplify this block. And as always, that information is included for you in this pattern. Let's go ahead and start with step one. We are going to be making flying geese units. These are very similar to what you would be typically accustomed to making, except you will notice that they are a little bit simpler than your standard flying geese in that this point does not come down all the way to the center. So we don't have to worry about matching a point right there, which makes that center just a little bit simpler. You are going to begin with your E squares. You're going to mark a diagonal line across the back of each of them, which I have already done. And we are going to be placing those with our B rectangles, just as you would for a regular flying geese unit. So I have marked it as I said. You'll place it right sides together. If you're familiar with making flying geese units, you can see that this square extends quite a bit further than you're used to seeing. And that is what is going to give us that little bit of extra space down here at the point of our tip right there. We will go up to the sewing machine, sew on the marked diagonal, press out. Make sure everything lines up. You know, I like using this technique for doing any of these stitch and flip type units. So I will press first, make sure all of my edges align, and then trim out a 1/4 inch seam allowance on those bottom 2 layers, leaving my top layer intact. Once I have completed the first side, I will add the second side, just like it shows you over here in the pattern. I will sew all of these flying geese and meet you back here for the next step. Flying geese are done, and I have laid out my A piece, C pieces, and the flying geese just like you see here on the pattern. And then we're just going to go ahead and sew these together in horizontal rows. You can see your pressing instructions here on the pattern. We're pressing away from the center, towards the center in the middle row, and then away from the center on that bottom row. When we sew the 3 rows together, we are going to press those final 2 seams towards the center. Now, when you look at these flying geese units, you can see that we do have more space from the tip to the edge of the flying geese unit. Typically, we would have just 1/4 inch from the edge to that point right there. So you can see that we are working with a little bit more space, which is going to make those very nice to sew together. I will sew this together, but I am also going to go ahead and sew my next set of flying geese according to the instructions on the next page, which is going to be flying geese made using the F rectangles and the D squares. These are going to be constructed the same way that we just constructed these smaller flying geese units, but these do have the points that come all the way down to the tip. So you're going to see we do not have as much overhang with our top square in comparison to our bottom rectangle. We're going to sew corner to corner, just like I explained to you previously. Press out, double check all of your edges. If everything lines up nicely, then you'll trim out your bottom 2 layers and then repeat on the other side. Those instructions are listed right here in steps 4 and step 5. So I will sew together my center and complete these flying geese units at the same time. This is what our block center looks like now. I'll flip that over so you can see the pressing here on the back. And the larger flying geese are complete. And I've laid everything out, so we have just a few steps more that we need to take to complete this block. We are going to sew our block center with our flying geese and then the 4 G squares to complete the center star. And then once we have that done, we are going to sew our H borders to the sides and then our I borders to the top and bottom. You can see all of those instructions listed right here in your pattern, along with the pressing instructions as to how we press those for the center as well as for that border. Once I have this sewn together, our block will be complete. And here's our completed Sunny Patches Sawtooth Star Block. This is what it looks like up close. You can take a look at that. And here is the beautiful day version. So they both turned out super cute. There's the pressing on the back, so you can see how that looks. This is a 12-inch unfinished block. It's going to finish at 11.5 inches within your quilt. Be sure to come back next month, the 3rd Saturday of the month, for the final block in this series of mystery blocks that I've been releasing for the Sunny Patches Block of the Month. And as I said earlier, I will be sharing the finishing instructions with you as well. So you very well may have a completed Sunny Patches quilt in time for the holidays, which is just the time when you might want to snuggle underneath of it. Thank you so much for stopping by, and I'll catch you again next time.